Okay, this is where I place my weights on my end of my forks when I start the heel. I also have the main weights on the bottom, which is the standard one of these, plus 3 weights on top of it. Also, every time I go to do a sock and I've got the scrap yarn on, I add a bit of extra oil around the edge there, so the excess oil soaks into the scrap yarn. Okay, and I'll sit down and show you how I start off. And you always remember to put your heel spring on. So what I do is I lift. That's your first one you're going to wrap around. Also, always keep checking that your needles are all open, that no hook has come up to close it off. These needles with the little hooks, those little hooks can get damaged and not move freely. If they're not moving freely and feel as though they're getting stuck, you need to replace that needle, because that'll also cause it not to move up and down properly and you drop a stitch. So what I try to do is place the weight so that the pull is sort of happening at the point where you're about to go around and knit the stitch. So the weight, if I find that it might not be quite enough, sometimes I'll actually put pressure on that particular fork to pull it down more. Okay, so first around. Now see how that needle just dropped? That can happen because you're not round far enough. So another way to fix that is to raise that hook up a little bit above the others. Make sure you're far enough around. So I always watch as I'm coming around what the needles are doing, going up, then coming down. Okay. So make sure you go far enough around that way to trigger everything to line up here. So the second one, up, raise that up a little bit. I don't think my heel spring is working properly, so I always sort of manually tension as I go around. Okay, second one. Now, the further you go around, the more you'll see this stitch raise up. And when it raises up too much, you need to move your forks or your weights. So see, that's down. I raise that up a little bit if I think there's going to be an issue. Back. Down. My yarn's getting caught. Up. Down. Up. Oh, sorry, my yarn is getting caught. See how that's up a little bit? That's starting to tell you that you're going to have to move your weights soon. Up, around. See this here? It's up more than that. So I can go, if I go slow, I can get a little bit more out of it. Oops, that needs to be down. Yeah. Now that's getting a bit close, so I'll do one more. Also, when you're doing a heel, don't get distracted halfway through it. Now, see where that is aligned up with my forks. See how the weight's coming there? So I need to move it. Shall I move it across more? And so it's pulling more there, and I'll do the same with the other side. And you could probably get away with 3 forks if you've got enough weight on the forks, but I don't have enough, I don't think. So then we go back around to here. See how that's lifting up? Still. Try it again. I never go fast when I do socks. It's just not worth the hassle, because then you make a mistake and you can't catch it, and then the whole thing's a write-off. So what I do is move it further across now. See, that's come up quite a bit. That means I've got an issue with not in the right position. So see how the pull is there when I need it to be there. Try that. See how that's rising up? That's still not quite right. It's just practice and working out where to stick the weights. Sometimes I'll pull if it's not quite right. So up there. Up there. Up there. So this will be my last one on this side. And this will be my last one on this side. Okay, so it's still lifting up. There's still an issue there. So what I'll try is going in the middle more. And so rejigging that one up more around there. So there's more weight pulling down, you see there. And these two bottom ones we will then slowly move up once I get further out. Right, so when I'm at this point, what I do is I push these down a part way. I do the first row back, I always do 2. That's just me. Other people do different. Now, the suicide method of doing the heel is you make sure the little prongy bits are down, and then you move your back around, and what should happen is this thread here will get catched between the hooks and knit those stitches. But the safe method, and this is what I think Eleanor still does, is you go and lift the strand back. Oops, sorry. Lift it back. You make sure these are down. Make sure that's so. Another trap is when you move this around, if it's not tensioning properly, you're going to have too loose a thread, and that can cause stitches to drop too. So as you come through, watch that there's enough tension there. Still, I think this is the area that I have issues with sometimes. We'll see what happens. One of these stitches will not latch on if there's not, see there, usually it's this stitch that won't latch on properly with the way I've positioned the weights, but that's worked this time. Okay, back around. So then the next side, 2 down, flip over, making sure your latches are down. And come back this way, make sure your tension's correct, and you just go slow and watch what the stitches are doing. Okay, I never rush it. I found I had more problems when I was rushing and not taking it slow to understand how things are working. Now I just do 1 stitch each, and then I work my way to just before the last stitch that I've wrapped around. So the first stitch I started with was this one and this one. So I want to stop here. So actually stop before there. So I'll make sure I do this one and then this one, and then I'll stop here and then push all the needles down. So I'll just show you what I do. Watching how my weights are going. You see how there's that pull there? That's the way you want your weights to pull on the area where you're knitting the needle, you're doing the needles. Now you can see how that's lifting up a bit now. So that's where I would then start a fork there and a fork up there, with the weight pulling down in that area. Try again. So also with this bit here, see how I've got it so the end of the needle, so you adjust it at here to push it in and out, but I've got it so it's just clearing the needle. So say if you started here, if you didn't come far enough around to clear the needles and then you were too close and you started moving here, that's when you can have this needle or this needle drop down before you get your yarn to that needle, okay? So always make sure you come around a fair bit. Lift your little needle up a little bit. Make sure your yarn's tensioned. Now, I think I might have to start moving the weights again. And see how it's pulling? If you drop a stitch here, it is a real mongrel to try and pick up correctly. So always check that your needles are correct. Okay, so what I'm going to do is move these weights again up to about here, up to about there, and then now I'll move these up to here. Spread it all out. Okay, down, over, make sure that little one's down. Right, so what I might do is just move that up a little bit more. Now this is moving around. Also, another thing is, as you work around, if you find that your thing isn't moving, it's hitting up and stopping, just check that all of these outer work ones are up properly and there's not one that might be down a fraction, because that can stop you moving this bit. All right, so now this is the last one, the second last one on this side. All right, back around, up, down. And then this side, up. Now this is where I stop here. So see how you've got one loop still around and one loop still around. If you find you've got odd numbers on either side, it means you've forgotten to do 1/2. So then once I get to here, I push all these down. Check that all the little latches are down, because that's the way you lose your stitches as well. I stick my row counter on, because I don't use the counter on the side. I have a digital one that I got off eBay or Amazon, I think it was. So as I slowly come around here, again, I don't go fast. I make sure that that last one stitches properly. See there? It's hooked properly. Then your other last one is around there. So my counter is now set. This is my first round of my foot. Just going slowly where I've got the extra stitch. And then I'm back to now doing the foot. So I do the same thing for the toe, except I don't do the toe here, I do the toe here. I do the same type of decrease and the same 2 increase, but when you come to that last stitch, so your toe for me starts from here down. When I come to doing the last stitch on the toe, increasing back, just before I get there, I make sure I raise up all these. I make sure I put all these down, and as I get to here, I change over my yarn. So I'll have the working yarn doing this stitch, and then I'll put in the scrap yarn here to pick up this stitch, and then do the round a couple of times, and then my little stitch marker pins I will then use to put in between those toe stitches to mark where you start and finish doing up your toe. Okay, so I hope that helps, and I hope it recorded properly.